I'm Star Penn. I am your leaky gut coach, and I am the creator and founder of the JIA Blueprint, where I help moms who have children with juvenile arthritis and other autoimmune conditions to reverse their child's condition completely and quickly, so that way, basically, us moms can have our life back as soon as possible and also enjoy our kids and our family in this short amount of time that we can. So usually my videos are about understanding autoimmune disease, how it works, how do we detox our body, what are we supposed to be doing. But today I'm going to take a little bit of a shift, and I'm going to share with you some practical tips on how to make sure our foods are safer for our children with autoimmune disease. Sometimes we just are not in a place where we can maybe stop eating grains, for instance. Or maybe we're just not in a place where we can justify buying organic fruits and vegetables. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How do we get our grains, get our produce in a condition where up to 99% of all the glyphosate, which is the chemical Roundup, which is blowing holes in our kids' gut linings and ours, how can we remove that from the food that we're eating before we eat it to make it safer? Of course, obviously, we know that cooked breads and grains and crackers and things like that we buy from the grocery store do have glyphosate all throughout them. And there's no way for us to remove them because it's already in the product. And I personally am not somebody who overly is concerned with the food being organic, not because I don't think that there's anything wrong with the conventional, but I am just a little bit concerned with what we'll find out in 10 years' time. What was in the organic spray that they were using that might also be harming us? I'm not saying that's the case, but that's my concern. I still do try to buy organic when I can, but this is not to say we'll buy organic food and buy organic crackers. And, I wish it were, that it would be that simple. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is washing our vegetables. I don't know about you, but this has been something that it seems simple enough, but I've scratched my head about so many times. Does it even do anything? What is it that works? The sprays and the baths and the washes, those expensive things that they sell next to the fruits and vegetables, or you get with your, order of other natural products. What does it do? What's even in that? And does it even work? A lot of people say it does work, but it's expensive. I don't know what's in it. So let's talk about washing our vegetables, our produce, any of our produce when we get it home. This is how we are going to get the glyphosate out. So all we need to do is soak. You're not going to believe this. All we need to do is soak our fruits and vegetables in baking soda. I know. It really is that simple. And this has been scientifically studied, you guys. This has been scientifically studied in labs, and the results are in. Finally, there's no more confusion on this. Baking soda is an alkaline. That's what it is. If anything is the definition of alkaline, it is baking soda. And what baking soda does is it has the power to remove any glyphosate that is on the outside of our produce. This is so exciting. This is so important to know, because if you ever wondered if really you were doing any good or not, and wondered if it was even really worth it. Now, this can't deal with the pesticide that's in the fruit, and it's not 100%, but they're seeing in labs a 99% removal of glyphosate off of the outside of produce when we mix a ratio of about a liter of water to 2 tablespoons of baking soda. That's it. That's it, guys. All this time, that's all it was. And now we know for sure. This isn't just an old wives' tale. This isn't what our gut is telling us. No pun intended, but This is actually scientifically proven. So what some of you might be saying, oh, let me put a little dash of vinegar in there too. That's what I always do. A little baking soda, a little vinegar. Let me get that fizz going on. No, my friends, no. Do not add vinegar to this mixture. Vinegar is an acid. Baking soda is alkaline. Yes, we see a chemical reaction, but what that chemical reaction is doing is making our base neutral. So baking soda and vinegar together is as effective as just washing your produce in water. So I don't know, but I know I've done it, thinking that I'm getting this chemical reaction and that maybe this is going to be abrasive and this is going to pull it off. No, 15 minutes in the ratio of about a liter or so of water to about 2 tablespoons of baking soda, 15 minutes. Then you want to rinse that off really, really well, preferably in water that isn't contaminated with chlorine or fluoride or, other, hopefully, if you are so blessed to have some sort of a water filtration system in your sink, but otherwise, just do the best you can, right? But yes, this is not 100%. This is not a guarantee. This is not to say, oh, don't worry about not getting organic. That's not what I'm saying. But whether it's organic or not, this is something that we want to do. And when we can't get organic, because we can't always do it, we can do this and we can prepare our food properly and we can bless it and we can eat it, and knowing that we're doing the best we can. And that in and of itself is healing. If we're eating our food in a stressed out state, no matter how clean it is, versus eating our food in a trusting and calm state, no matter how contaminated it is, we're actually going to do more healing over here. Okay, so the other thing that we can do in order to get the glyphosate, to get this pesticide off of our food and grains, is fermentation. Another study has shown that when we ferment our fruits and vegetables, and of course this gives it another taste, right? It makes it pickly tasting, salty, fizzy. We're fermenting it. But so if you take a head of cabbage, if you take some pickles, you can even make a fruit kvass, which is like a vegetable medley of sorts, but you do it with fruit. There's a recipe for that you can find online. But you can take your fruit and you can take your vegetables, and if you ferment them and get yourself a jar of some really good fermented veg, not only is that fermentation process of the good bacteria that's eating up all of the sugars from the fruit or vegetable and creating a probiotic vegetable and a probiotic liquid, it's also consuming much of the glyphosate that was on that vegetable, making it way, way, way less harmful to our child's body and to ours. So not only are we giving them something that's probiotic and fermented, which they need for their gut health, but we're also removing a lot of the pesticide that's in there as well. So those two are both for produce. But what about our grains? Now, again, when I say our grains, I'm talking about grains that we ourselves are preparing. We can't do anything about a loaf of bread from the grocery store or a box of cereal. I don't care if it's an organic box of crackers. We cannot do anything about that. But we can properly prepare grains and seeds and nuts, lentils, beans, and we can get much of that same glyphosate off of them as we would with the produce. And by preparing our grains and seeds and beans and sprouts and lentils, and all of that properly, not only are we getting the glyphosate, a good amount, if not most of the glyphosate off of these items before we cook them, we're also preparing them for digestion, which is so important. This step is skipped. So any kind of canned bean, this step is skipped. I don't care how soft the beans are. If we just take our rice and we just rinse it and put it in the pot, we are not properly preparing that grain. And it is so important because all of our grains, nuts, seeds, beans have a sort of anti-nutrient around them. And so although we can chew them and break them down in our mouth and eat them, the anti-nutrient has never been broken down. And so our bodies can't absorb the nutrition from them. And they actually become potential for a breeding ground of disease in our body when we eat them in that state. So we're getting a dual purpose here by properly preparing our grains, nuts, seeds, beans, by basically fermenting them. So you can ferment them by soaking them, rinsing them really well, soaking them in some water. That will get the anti-nutrients off. And then if you wanted to add a little pickle juice, a little sauerkraut juice, something live and fermented, it could be whey. If you have whey from the top of your yogurt, you can pour that in there. And you would just cover that with a dish rag and let it sit for 8, 12 hours. I wouldn't go much longer than that because you can over ferment and then you can start to get, it's alive. You're making that water alive. And so you could actually over ferment and then create mold or, different things. But 8 hours is probably perfect for almost everything. It's a good middle ground. If you go online and search, you're going to find fermenting times, which is varying depending on what it is you're fermenting. But 8 hours is going to pretty much be where you're going to live for most things, or at least be long enough for most things and also not too long. So those are the two things that we're going to start doing to get the glyphosate off our food for the most part, so that we don't have to stress and worry about what it is that we're feeding our children. Granted, this is helping a family who's still eating some of these foods that really aren't going to ultimately help you to completely heal your gut, to completely reverse your child's juvenile arthritis or autoimmune disease. Things like grains, beans, nuts, things like certain fruits, even some certain vegetables at some point really are not appropriate for the earlier stages of healing. But not all of us are ready at this moment right now to dive into all of those earlier stages of healing. But it's good to know that you have a tool in your belt, something that is going to make the food that you're currently eating, if you are going to do rice anyway, if you are going to do beans anyway, and it's not something you're ready to shift from yet, or if you are going to eat fruit anyway, if your kids eat a lot of fruit, at least you're removing huge culprits that perpetuate the underlying issue that caused their autoimmune disease in the first place. Glyphosate, if you've seen any of my other videos, if not, go watch my other video. That is just about glyphosate and what it does to our gut lining and why we have an autoimmune epidemic problem right now. A huge part of that has to do with glyphosate, among other things. A huge part of it has to do with glyphosate. So by fermenting your vegetables, you're going to be not only removing the glyphosate, and by fermenting and soaking your grains, seeds, nuts, you're not only going to be removing the glyphosate, but you're also going to be making them more digestible, which is so important for our kids in this state that they're in. And then by washing our produce in just baking soda for 15 minutes in water is going to remove about 99% of the pesticide that is on that fruit or vegetable, making it safe for them to eat. So I hope this information is helpful to you. That is my hope. And if you want more information, I have a ton more of these YouTube videos. Please subscribe, like the video, share the videos with your loved ones and friends. And if you want to reach out to me, if you want more information about my program, the JIA Blueprint, where I help moms who have children with not just juvenile arthritis, but all sorts of autoimmune diseases, go from being scared, confused, overwhelmed to just happy, confident, and calm, just send me an email at jiablueprint.com. That's where you would go for my website, or my email is jiablueprint@gmail.com. So you can reach me there. All right. Until I see you in the next video. Bye.